Hello and welcome back to my channel, Shadow of the Sphinx. Today I'm sitting here with another book. However, this isn't actually a book review. This is more to talk about the author of the book, Agatha Christie. She is, I think it's fair to say for me, probably my all-time favourite author. I have Death on the Nile here as an example of her work, one of her best known works, I would say, and probably one of my personal favourites out of all of her books. I've read a number of her books over the years, and I find that I can keep going back to the books and rereading them without ever really getting bored, after a period of time. Death on the Nile is one of her best known. There are several others. I think the one that has sold the most in the world in terms of copies is And Then They Were None. I know that she is probably one of the all-time best-selling authors. I know that I don't know the exact figures, but she's had more books translated into more languages than any other author, I think, or certainly one of those authors up there with the most amount of translated books around the world. As people probably know, lots of adaptations and dramatisations of her books into plays, TV shows and theatre performance, movies and films that have been made. She's also inspired a lot of other authors and playwrights and filmmakers as well, with how she writes her stories and the nature of her stories. What I like the most is I like the intrigue. I like the way she looks at human nature. I like the way that she explores the murder mystery sort of genre. I find her interesting and intriguing, the way that the characters are written. I find it that it all encompasses, to me, just a brilliant stories, brilliant characters, brilliant settings, and always with a twist in the tale as well, which I always find, is something. It elevates it from just a regular, mundane, whodunit kind of mystery. Now, that is just my personal opinion. Other people may feel the same, but she is, as I say, one of my favourite authors, probably my all-time favourite author. I never get tired of reading her. I never get bored of reading her. So I guess that's probably the best way to say that someone is your favourite author. As I said, Death on the Nile is one of my favourites. There are a number of others that are very well known, such as Murder on the Orient Express, Evil Under the Sun, And Then There Were None. I'll just lift those off the top of my head. I guess people like them. The two main characters that she's written about, which are recurring, which are usually solving the murders and the mystery, is Miss Marple. There's a whole series of books on her, but the best known character obviously is Hercule Poirot. Most of her books are written about that particular character. I think everybody around the world would know him as probably the most famous fictional detective there probably is. And in Death on the Nile, that is Poirot and his trip down the Nile on a luxury steamer, that is, and what happens on the luxury steamer. There's been numerous TV shows, movies, etc., plays about Poirot, and lots of people I've noticed, well, there's a number of books now where people have carried on in the same sort of vein as Agatha Christie in her style of writing to sort of try and not extend her writing, but I guess it's more like a tribute to her. And there's a lot of different books coming out around her personal life. For example, she was married twice. Her second marriage was to a gentleman called Max Mallowane, who was a bit younger than her, but he was an archaeologist. So she spent a lot of time in the Middle East and North Africa with him on various digs. She also, when she was younger, she trained as with a chemist, with a pharmacy. She knew a lot about poisons, and you see these influences in her writing. She often will use poison as a means to kill somebody, and a lot of her stories are set in the Middle East and North Africa, such as Death on the Nile, Murder in Mesopotamia, as two examples. So, and they come from her own personal experiences, which I think adds to the stories. She can speak with some knowledge and confidence about poisons, about some of these places that she's writing about where Hercule Poirot finds himself, or whoever is, the detectives or the people solving the mysteries are. She can write with some authority and confidence and knowledge of these places, which adds a tone of authenticity, I can't say that word correctly, to the stories. So this is just my little kind of video about my love for Agatha Christie, her books. Do I have a favourite character? No, that's a difficult one. I can't say that which one I prefer more. I don't have a lot of her books. I've read a lot of her books over time. I've got a lot of books out of the library in the past. I'm starting to collect her books again to build up her library and slowly get all of her books that she's written of Miss Marple, Hercule Poirot and all the others. So that is just my little sort of take on Agatha Christie, why I think she's probably my favourite author, why I love her books. I love murder mystery. That's generally the genre of fiction that I like, and whodunits. I do really like that. So that is, this is what I wanted to share in my video, that this video isn't just about ancient Egypt, but obviously this Death on the Nile particularly links into ancient Egypt quite nicely. But I just wanted to spread what I'll be, widen what I'll be talking about on my videos a little bit further, encompassing a few more of my interests. So yes, Agatha Christie. I don't read Agatha Christie exclusively. I do read other authors. I do read other books, but she is my favourite, and the one I'll return to time and time again. So she will be mentioned again in the future on this channel, and some of her books. Maybe I'll do a review of her books again, or a couple of her books. I'm probably due another read of this particular one, so perhaps then I shall do a review of Death on the Nile. So for now, I hope people find that interesting, that you may do. Maybe if you've never read any of her books, give one a go. Maybe try with some of the more popular ones to begin with and see how you get on with her. I mean, a lot of the dramatisations and plays and films that you see don't necessarily, as we know with books, follow the story exactly. So if you read the book, for example, Death on the Nile, there's a very famous film made in the mid-70s of this novel, and there was one a few years ago made as well. They might have all the same characters, but they won't necessarily be exact to the book. So maybe give one of the books a go, give one of the more popular books a go, and see what you think if you've never read any of her works. You might like them, you might not, but definitely worth trying one of her books, reading one of her books and seeing what you think. You never know, you might end up becoming enthralled like I am with the sort of whodunit murder mysteries genre of writing. So for now, that is it. Thank you for anyone that's watching this video. I hope you found it useful. I hope you found it interesting or helpful, just to see someone's viewpoint on an author. I will be back again with another video, maybe a book review or maybe something else. But I wanted to share some of my other interests on this YouTube channel, and I hope you found it interesting. Until next time, take care. Please like and subscribe.